less than 32 million viewers saw the speech. Why did Obama's approval ratings drop in the Gallup tracking? Is it because he was too hawkish, too dovish, or what? Mark Zuckerman.
Well, I mean, he's lost so much credibility amongst Americans in terms of his foreign policy. I don't think we've lived with anybody with that kind of record of failure as far as the American public sees it. So I think they're very nervous about what he's going to be leading the country into. And frankly, the more he goes in one direction, a lot of other Americans are going to go in a different direction.
Well, I don't know about that, but joining us right now, ladies and gentlemen, is Noah Rothman, associate editor for HotAir.com. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, a lot of great stuff there on HotAir.com, and a lot of it written by you. And I want to go back to a piece you wrote on September 10th, which really dovetails with what you wrote and what we just heard, kind of sort of there. Hillary isn't popular anymore, you wrote, even though the campaign hasn't yet begun. And you talk about her ratings sliding, I guess, certainly over the course of time. I don't know if is that insurmountable? I mean, things could change a lot, correct?
Oh, sure. They could absolutely change. And her current level of popularity isn't insurmountable, per se. But this is just judging off the Wall Street Journal NBC News poll, which was released last week, that showed her formerly sky-high popularity ratings sinking to about 43%. Her unfavorables up to 41%, which is within the margin of error statistically. Americans are about even on her, 50-50. Who knows? You know, she's okay with some, others she's a problem. This is dramatically different from where she was when she was Secretary of State, or even right after she left the Obama administration in 2013. And this is before, and the analysis is, well, she's coming back down to earth because she's getting into politics again. Well, she's sort of getting into politics again, but she isn't there yet. She hasn't announced a campaign. She's not campaigning against anybody. She doesn't have anybody raising her own negatives besides herself. So if this is the place that she's at before the campaign has begun, or a primary for that matter, and there will be a primary, it's not a great place for any politician to be.
Right. No, absolutely. And you know, she said in Iowa that yes, it's true, I'm thinking about running, but that's not the reason she was there over the weekend. And you wrote a piece about revelations that Hillary may be too far to the right for some Democrats, which is a whole nother issue. But, you know, we just ran video, I know you can't see it, of the steak fry, them, Hillary, Bill, and Tom Harkin standing at a grill, each one on a spatula holding up a steak. And I think it's National Review has the story that that steak was pre-cooked and placed on the grill for them to come there and scoop them up and hold them up. I mean, everything is phony. But let's talk about you hear about Bernie Sanders. He's thinking of throwing his hat in the ring. There might be others. Just how much is she possibly too far to the right for some in her own party?
She's dramatically too far to the right, and the evidence has been available to anybody who's willing to see it. And there's a lot of people who don't want to see it. They see her support, which is a mile wide, but it's actually quite shallow, and it has been for some time. She spent the majority of June in her book tour / coming out party defending her own record to liberal outlets. She had to defend her coming out relatively late for gay marriage, for example, to NPR, which resulted in a big kerfuffle where she got very defensive and a little aggressive with her interlocutor. And that isn't the first time this has happened. She's been attacked from the left on places like MSNBC since at least February for being too close to Wall Street, too close to Goldman Sachs. She's become a little too hawkish on the issue of ISIS and Russia for the left. She's created a lot of space to her left that anybody with some credibility could fill in the Democratic Party. The problem is that there's no credible alternative to Hillary. If one were to appear tomorrow, it would be a stunning collapse of her support among the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. There is just no enthusiasm.
No, who would you consider credible? I mean, obviously, I don't believe we're talking Bernie Sanders. Are we talking Joe Biden? I mean, who would you? Are we talking? You know, the senator from Massachusetts? Who are we talking?
Yeah, that's really essentially it right now. Elizabeth Warren is the great progressive hope, and the Clinton machine is such that they're able to keep credible contenders out of the race. As you said, Bernie Sanders is definitely flirting with running, and then there's others who are essentially to Hillary, maybe even Hillary's right, like Jim Webb, who is a one-term senator from Virginia who resigned after a single term, and he's regarded as relatively centrist. But there is nobody who lights the fire under the progressive base like Elizabeth Warren. It's certainly not the vice president, although his name recognition would carry him pretty far. If she declines to run, I don't know if there is a credible challenger who could arise. But if she were somehow to pull the trigger on that one, which seems an unlikely prospect at this point, if she did, it would really upend conventional wisdom very quickly.
And, you know, we have a story today out of Fox News, a former State Department official telling congressional committee members behind closed doors that Clinton allies privately removed politically damaging documents before turning them over to the board that was investigating in an impartial manner, quote unquote. This is Raymond Maxwell, former head of the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, and Jason Chaffetz and others saying that, yeah, he's telling the same story. So as the Benghazi hearings get ready to start up, this could be very, very damaging if this guy comes forward. I guess they're going to have to trash the messenger. Gee, they've never done that before.
Yeah, I'd imagine that the Benghazi issue will come up, certainly in a general. It's not going to be a primary issue unless this somehow blows up and becomes an issue of credibility and authenticity and maybe even ethics. But at this stage, it's hard to see that.
All right, let's talk about ISIS and Obama's, as you put it, at hotair.com, his schizophrenic ISIS strategy being problematic. You know, the speech, you know, he made it sound like we're going to decimate this terrorist group, so you figure we're going to go to war to do that. And then the next day, his administration, Susan Rice, John Kerry, others, no, it's not a war. State Department spokesman, no, she doesn't even use the term war on terror, she told the AP reporter. And then, of course, Josh Earnest, a couple of days after that, said, yeah, I guess you could say it's a war. Yesterday, Kerry said, well, if you want to call it a war, that's up to you, but I prefer blah, blah. I mean, it's really crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't inspire any confidence at all. We're calling this a war so as to enable us to use the 2001, 2002 authorizations of use of military force. It's more a semantics and rhetoric game than it is actually calling this action what it is and what it will be. And that hasn't inspired any confidence in the American people. If you look at the polling, they say, you know, we want this job to be done. We don't think Barack Obama is the man to do it. He hasn't inspired any confidence. And Reuters Ipsos came out with a poll today, which shows that while I think it was 62% of the public or 64% of the public believes that the mission to degrade and destroy ISIS is a good mission. When you ask them whether the 3-year campaign, which by the way was only leaked into the New York Times via unattributable sources within the administration, but if it's a 3-year campaign using only air assets and boots on the ground consisting of local partners, the support drops dramatically. And it doesn't surprise me at all that that's the case. The public has very little faith in this White House to execute a strategy that will get the job done, but with sacrificing even making the most remote inconvenience. It's all very political, and the American public knows that you can't prosecute a war politically. We all remember how political wars blow up in a very short order, and these things don't get more popular over time. Wars only grow less popular. So this is a very bad place for this campaign to start out, if it is to be a campaign.
Yeah, and one more, you point out in a piece yesterday, I believe, that North Korea has sentenced a U.S. citizen to 6 years in a hard labor camp. Matthew Miller, they put him on trial over the weekend, quote-unquote trial. There are others there. And, of course, you know, we still have our Marine in Mexico. I just wonder how hard behind the scenes this president or secretary of state has ever worked to get him out. It's not only the beheadings by ISIS, but we have Americans that are being held in Iran, the pastor. So we got hostages and prisoners being held all over the world.
Yeah, in the North Korea case, it does seem like this is more of a hostage situation. The United States has offered a representative, a relatively low-ranking diplomatic representative, to come over and help negotiate the processes of getting him, Kenneth Bae, who's also imprisoned over there, and another American who's awaiting trial, who's on trumped-up charges regarding religiosity. They don't even suggest he's a religious man. But it suggests that the North Korean officials want a higher-ranking individual to come over. And given the history of this regime has of extracting ransoms from the United States in the form of negotiations over their nuclear program or what have you, this fits a pattern, and it suggests that these individuals are being held hostage by a terrorist regime.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, no, it's always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Noah Rothman, ladies and gentlemen, associate editor for hotair.com. And we're coming up next, and you know what it is? It's the segment where I just get to speak my mind, and it's called Gimme 5. It's next, only on Newsmax Television, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.